Friends, welcome. Let us start our today's session. As planned, we'll be learning the concepts of cost of capital today. Let me share my screen with you right now. So, as you can look at the screen, as discussed earlier also, you are aware of that second unit of your syllabus contains all these things. The first part we have already covered. Now we are moving to the second part, where we are going to learn the computation of cost of debt, cost of equity, preference share, cost of internal reserves, and weighted average cost of capital. One by one, we'll be learning all these concepts. First, we'll be learning cost of debt. Thereafter, we'll move to cost of equity. And prior to that, the first part already discussed, where the sources of long-term finance, all these issues we had discussed. You can have a quick look at the slides which we have already learned, like sources of long-term capital. We are aware of these are the sources. Okay, how that can be classified as internal source and external source. That also we are aware of. And certain issues relating to financing decisions, we had discussed all these things. Finance functions, how the cost of capital and capital structure is important, that also we had discussed. Then what is the relationship of this cost of capital and capital structure with the value of the firm? That also we had discussed earlier. Okay, some of the features of long-term finance and the purpose of long-term finance also we had discussed. There are a few factors which matters or which affects our long-term finance, long-term capital decisions, like nature of business, nature of goods produced, use of technology. These are some of the factors which determine the requirement of long-term finance. The business is such a nature that you need a huge amount of capital. And let us say business is such type of business that let us say to start with, heavy investment is required. Cash flow generation will be delayed. In that kind of situation, you may need some long-term capital. Then we are learning what is the concept of cost of capital. We have understood that what is the expectation of the investor, that becomes cost for the business. For example, an equity investor, if he is expecting a growth or he is expecting some kind of dividend, so that becomes cost for the business. And similarly, a debt holder. Debt holder means a person who has lent some money to the business. If he's expecting something, what you will expect? A debt holder can expect what? He'll be expecting interest. Is it not? If you have borrowed some money, then the debt holder will be expecting interest. That interest becomes cost. Right. So when you're talking about cost of debt, so broadly it talks about interest part. And in addition to that, it also talks about, let us say, you're borrowing something and there is a cost involved. Cost involved means, let us say, processing cost. Processing cost is also a part of cost. Is it not? Okay. Suppose you are applying for a loan to a bank. It's a debt. Now, if I'm asking you, what is this cost of debt? You may say, okay, interest is the cost of debt, but that is not the only thing. Let us say bank is charging you a processing fee. That processing fee is also a part of cost of debt. So your interest, let us say you are paying, let us assume, let us say you are paying 1,000 rupees interest, but processing charges you are paid 100 rupees. That also, that means your total cost of that debt become 1,000 plus 100, 1,100. Okay. So at this stage, what we are going to conclude, that what the investor expects or what the lender expects, that is the cost of capital for the business. Okay. So these concepts were discussed yesterday in your last class. Now, today is, as I had told you earlier, our plan was to learn that how to compute cost of debt. Now, once again, look at your screen. Cost of capital, basic concepts we had also discussed. We have also discussed what is the specific cost of capital and what is the overall cost of capital. Let us say business, there are various components of the capital, debt, equity, preference, all these are the components, maybe reserves and surplus. Each of these component has got a cost that is called as the specific cost. But overall, if you take the weighted average of this cost, you will get a figure that will call as weighted average cost of capital. Okay, weighted average cost of capital will be able to compute only when we know the cost of individual components of the capital. So first we will be learning how to compute the cost of each individual component. Then we will be learning how to compute weighted average cost of capital. Okay, right. Now look at this slide. Before learning how to compute cost of capital, certain assumptions we need to know. First, let us look at this formula. It's a very simple formula. It talks about cost of capital can be measured by using these components or these factors. This K stands for cost or cost of capital. Right, so we are going to compute that. If you look at the formula, it says RF plus RB plus RP. You might be thinking, what are these things? RF stands for risk-free rate of interest. I repeat, RF stands for risk-free rate of interest. What does it mean? It means that without any risk, without taking any risk, if you invest that money, how much you are going to get. Suppose an investor is coming to you. Investor is saying, I will give you 5 lakh rupees. Now, question is, what is the interest he should expect? Let us say if he doesn't give that money to you, he can park that money in a bank account. And he feels that bank account is risk-free. And let us assume that bank will give him an interest of 3%. Then he may say, without taking any risk, I am capable of earning 3%. So my risk-free rate of return is 3%. So definitely, you should give me 3% plus something. Therefore, cost of capital is always RF, that is risk-free rate of return plus something. Hope you have understood it. Yes or no? I guess you are able to understand this point. Are you getting me? I repeat again. We are trying to learn what are the components of cost of capital. I told you cost of capital or K is equal to RF plus something. What is RP? What is RP? We'll be learning. What is RF? RF stands for risk-free rate of return. Okay. So RF stands for risk-free rate of return. So without taking any risk, if you are getting something, that is your risk-free rate of return. Okay. Example I gave you. Let us say bank rate. Okay. In the market, what is risk-free rate of return? Normally, we consider the treasury bill rate as the risk-free rate of return. So once we know this is my risk-free rate of return, my cost of capital will be more than that. Why it will be more? You see, without any taking risk, without taking any risk, let us say someone is getting 3%. When he takes some risk, he'll be expecting more. Is it not? So two additional risks a businessman takes. It may be business risk, it may be financial risk. So for the business risk, that means investor is not sure that how much return he is going to get out of your business. So he is asking that, okay, 3% is for risk rate of return. You also give me another 4% for the business risk I am taking. So now 3% for 4% becomes 7%. Plus, he's also doubt that what is the guarantee that he will be returning my money. I'm also taking a financial risk. For that thing, you give me, let us say, another 2%. That is called as the risk premium. Now, three things you see. 3% plus 4% plus 2%. Now, total cost comes to now 9%. So 9% becomes your cost of capital. Did you understand this example? You can unmute and talk. I repeat once again. When you compute cost of capital, we need to appreciate that cost of capital consists of three things, or there are three components to cost of capital. Cost of capital compute करिवा लगी first हमें कौन जानिया दरकार what is risk free rate of return. Risk free rate of return माने यदि किछि मो risk नौनी ताहले मते केते टंका मिलिबो केते टंका रिटर्न मिलिबो बिना रिस्क. सो सेटा हला आरएफ. ता छडा जेहेतु मो किछि बिजनेस रिस्क नौची मते आउ किछि अधिका मिलिबा दरकार. जेहेतु मो किछि फाइनेंशियल रिस्क नौची ताले आउरी भी किछि अधिका मिलिबा दरकार. तेणु कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल टा कोन आरएफ प्लस आरबी प्लस आरपी. बुझियला थर. If you have any doubt, any query, you may ask freely. Okay. So in any business, we take business risk and financial risk. Therefore, to the risk-free rate of return, these two components are added. Okay. We need to compute cost of capital, and the computation of cost of capital is important because of some reasons. First one is that it will help us in taking capital budgeting decisions. What is capital budgeting decisions? That means investment decisions. If I'm planning to invest money somewhere, I have to take some decisions. Suppose you are planning to invest in a machinery, in a machine. You want to buy a machine. That's a capital budgeting decision. But to take that decision, you also need to know what is your cost of capital. Suppose देखो तमे गोटे machine किणी. Machine किणीबाटा हला गोटे capital budgeting decision और investment decision. कारण तमे एटी invest करछ. किंतु से डिसीजन नबा लगी तुम कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल जानिया दरकार. कहीं जानिया दरकार जे तमे जानिछ कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल होची मोर 12%. तल जो मशीन टा किणुछ से 12% अधिक दबा कथा रिटर्न. यदि न दउची तल म किणीबे. ओके. सो कैपिटल बजेटिंग डिसीजन नबा लगी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल जानिबा दरकार. सेमती कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर डिसीजन नबा लगी. कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर डिसीजन माने को कॉम्बिनेशन में को प्रपोर्शन में डेप्थ रहइबो को प्रपोर्शन में इक्विटी रहइबो. डेप्थ केते रहइबो इक्विटी केते. सो से कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर कॉम्बिनेशन जदि हमें चेंज कर देबा ताल कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल भी कमी जीव बढ़ी जीव. किंतु मुझे सिना कॉस्ट जानी थिले कार कॉस्ट केते मैं प्रपोर्शन चेंज करिवि. ओके. एग्जांपल म आपको जमाना को दोछि. सपोज तम घरे गोटे सब्जी बनछ. सपोज पनीर आलू सब्जी बन रहा है. पनीर और आलू का कॉम्बिनेशन आपको अगर पता है पनीर इज कॉस्टली, पोटैटो इज चीपर, then you'll be able to decide the proportion. पनीर ज्यादा डालना है या आलू ज्यादा डालना. Similarly, if you know the cost of debt, cost of equity, then you'll be able to decide the capital structure. Okay. Right. Next thing, why it is important. If you want to do an evaluation of financial purpose, that is whether business is doing good or not. If you want to evaluate that, not evolution, evaluation. Okay, if you want to do that, then you need to know what is your cost of capital. Business should perform at a rate above the cost of capital. So if the cost of capital is, let us say, 12%, business should give me a return more than 12%. That is how I'll be able to compute the performance of the business. And for taking other financial decisions, whenever you're taking in financial decisions, the concept of cost of capital is important. Because through that only, you'll be able to take perfect decisions. Whenever you are taking an investment decision, you need to know what is the cost of capital. Okay. There are various factors which affects the cost of capital. General economic conditions of the country affects number one. Then market conditions affect, sometimes interest rate goes up, sometimes interest rate goes down. These are market conditions. Economic conditions and economy mean what happens, sometimes there is excess liquidity, sometimes there is less liquidity. माने कौन इकोनॉमिक्स रे केतबेले पैसा बेसी अवेलेबल हो जाए तो पैसा कम अवेलेबल तो पैसा कम थाए इकोनॉमी रे पैसा सर्कुलेशन कम थाए टंकार सर्कुलेशन जेतरे कम हुए सेतबेले कोन हुए इंटरेस्ट रेट बढ़ी जाए तो अधिका हुए इंटरेस्ट रेट कम जाए सेटा कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल को अफेक्ट करे सो मार्केट रे जहां भी फ्लक्चुएशन हुए सेटा भी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल को अफेक्ट ओके और फाइनेंशियल रिस्क बिजनेस रिस्क ये सब भी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल को अफेक्ट करे केते टंका दरकार अमाउंट सेटा भी अफेक्ट करे सपोज तुम छोट लोन नौ मे बी इंटरेस्ट रेट कम हो पारे बड़ लोन इंटरेस्ट रेट अधिक सो अमाउंट ऑफ फाइनेंस भी अफेक्ट करे ये सब फैक्टर अफेक्ट करे कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल सब फैक्टर को तो कंट्रोल करी होबनी देयर आर सम फैक्टर्स व्हिच आर विद इन द कंट्रोल ऑफ द बिजनेस कंट्रोल करि पारे जेमिति को टाइप रो कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर करिवो केते डेब्ट रखियो केते इक्विटी रखियो बिजनेस कैन कंट्रोल शेयर होल्डर को डिविडेंड दबो कि नहीं सेटा बिजनेस डिसीजन किंतु इंटरेस्ट दबो कि नहीं तो भाई परिबो इंटरेस्ट दबो कि नहीं सेटा नॉट ए कंट्रोलेबल फैक्टर लोन नहीं माने इंटरेस्ट दबो पड़े डिविडेंड दबो कि नहीं दैट इज कंट्रोलेबल कोट इन्वेस्टमेंट करिवो कोट इन्वेस्टमेंट करिवो नहीं योर इन्वेस्टमेंट पॉलिसी दैट इज आल्सो कंट्रोल बट इज नॉट कंट्रोलेबल इंटरेस्ट टैक्स रेट्स these things are externally controlled okay so जेतेबेले हम कैपिटल कॉस्ट हमें सपोज कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर डिसीजन में हमें जानिया दरकार ए सब फैक्टर कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल को अफेक्ट करंती एंड तादर किछटा कंट्रोलेबल किछटा नॉट कंट्रोलेबल बर्तन देखिए केमिति हमें कंप्यूट करिया कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल ता आगु गोटे स्मॉल कांसेप्ट दैट दी प्रकार कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल अछि one is called as historical cost of capital ता माने आगुरु जदी हमें किछि मार्केट टू कैपिटल उठेचन डेब्ट और इक्विटी what was its cost historical cost of capital other one is the current cost of capital एबे जदी मार्केट टू उठेबा पैसा केते हबो कॉस्ट ओके that is your current cost of capital so our financial management what is more useful is the current cost of capital when एबे मार्केट टू पैसा उठेले केते कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल that is important for us okay maybe we'll be learning how to compute the current cost of capital in that context we'll be first learning how to compute cost of capital and one more thing before that again to recapitulate why you are computing this cost of capital first of all to identify the cheapest source of finance if there is a question that why you compute cost of capital first reason is that to identify the cheapest source of finance सब सोर्स रा कॉस्ट जानी थिले हम जानी परिबा कोटा सबुठारु सस्ता रे मिलछ ओके सपोज तीन प्रकार लोन अछि गोटे टर्म लोन अछि गोटे कैश क्रेडिट लोन अछि आ गोटे शॉर्ट टर्म लोन अछि इंटरेस्ट रेट सबुथरे जानी परिबा जोटार कम इंटरेस्ट रेट हम सेटा नबा so to identify the cheapest source of finance I need to know what is my cost of capital second reason is that to use it as a discount rate in capital budgeting कैपिटल बजेटिंग माने तर मो इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन होछ गोटे एसेट किनिबा लागि डिसीजन होछ से एसेट त मते फ्यूचर रिटर्न लबा एबे सिना मो पैसा लगी कि सर एसेट रो रिटर्न मिलिबा फ्यूचर जो सपोज गोटे एसेट रे पैसा लगोछि 5 लाख टका लगोछि से 3 वर्ष परे मते रिटर्न दब 3 वर्ष परे प्रॉफिट दब जे प्रॉफिट 3 वर्ष परे दब तार करंट वैल्यू केते मो जानिबा दरकार राइट सो जो फ्यूचर वैल्यू रो करंट वैल्यू को आसीबा लागि मते से फ्यूचर वैल्यू टा को डिस्काउंट करिया ओके सपोज एबे मु 5 लाख टका निस लगो जोटे मशीन 2 वर्ष परे मते दबो 3 लाख टका थर्ड ईयर फोर्थ ईयर को दबो आउ 3 ଲକ୍ଷ ଟଙ୍କା, ଫିଫ୍ଥ ଇୟରକୁ ଦବ ଆଉ 4 ଲକ୍ଷ ଟଙ୍କା। ସେ ତ ଅଧିକା ଦବ 5 ଲକ୍ଷରୁ ଅଧିକା, କିନ୍ତୁ ଯୋଉ ଡେରିରେ ଦଉଛି ତାର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ କେତେ ମତେ ଏବେ ଆରାଇ କରିବ। 3 ବର୍ଷ ପରେ ଯଦି ଦଉଛି 3 ଲକ୍ଷ ଟଙ୍କା, ତାର ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ କଣ 3 ଲକ୍ଷ? ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ ହୁଏତ 2.5 ଲକ୍ଷ ଟଙ୍କା। 3 ଲକ୍ଷକୁ 2.5 ଲକ୍ଷ କେମିତି ଆସିବି? ମତେ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ସେଇ ଯୋଉ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ ଫ୍ୟାକ୍ଟରଟା କେତେ କେତେ ପରସେଣ୍ଟ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ, ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଇଜ ମାଇ କଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲ। ଯଦି କଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲ ଜାଣିଥିବି ତାହେଲେ ଡିସକାଉଣ୍ଟ। And also it is important to know whether the company can service the capital। ଯାହା କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲ ଅଛି କମ୍ପାନୀ ତାକୁ ସର୍ଭିସ କରିପାରିବ ନା, ମାନେ ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଦେଇପାରିବ ନା ନାହିଁ, ଲୋନ ରିପେ କରିପାରିବ ନା, ଏଇ ସବୁ କଥା ଜାଣିବା ଲାଗି ଆମେ କଷ୍ଟ ଅଫ କ୍ୟାପିଟାଲ କମ୍ପ୍ୟୁଟ କରୁଛୁ। ଓକେ ଓକେ, ଏଇଠି ଗୋଟେ at this stage let us take a break. After that we will be learning the concept of debt and how to compute the cost of debt. Okay, so let me take a short break just for 10 minutes. We'll catch up after 10 minutes. Thank you.